So my name is Gilbert and today I'm going to be interviewing my number one, and you'll find out who she is right now when I have her introduce herself. So if you could introduce yourself so everybody listening knows exactly who you are.
Okay, I'm Marlena Bell, and
And how are you? Are you related to me?
yes,
Okay, how
you're
old
my
are
dad.
you? How?
I'm 24 years old.
Okay, cool. So as you can see, that's my daughter. She's my number one, my only child, which is a grown child. And I thought it was important and I asked her if she would do this interview with me. And of course, it would require so much more time than 30, 40 minutes to speak about a topic that has so much depth and there's just way more information than we have the time. But maybe this is a good start. And, people listening that have children or young people that are listening that have a parent that, you know, has been to prison or is in prison, it would probably benefit from hearing what we have to talk about. So, after spending 21 years in prison, I've basically been out for a year and 1 month. Today's Christmas Day, and I got to spend, my first Christmas with my daughter Marlena since she was 2 years old. And as she told you, she's 24. But today she came to hang out with me after I worked all morning. But we cooked today. We made dinner together, and I'm having just one of the best times of my life today. And I wanted to ask her a few questions about her experiences growing up with her father in prison for such a long time. Like just some of her thoughts, like what were, Marlena, you could pick, any different time of your life or a specific, event, or maybe talk about some of the challenges and struggles and maybe even some of the good things or good lessons you learned, life lessons that have, hold some value in your daily life now. And so I'll kind of like leave that up to you and see where you go with it.
Okay.
So what stands out the most to you? Would you say like right now, what would be something that stands out being uh, when you were 2 years old and your dad's gone and that, lasted for 21 years. And the only reason we say 21 years now is because the law changed and because my behavior, I was paroled, but sentenced to life, it's like for a long time, I don't even know if you knew I had life because you were so
Um,
young.
yeah, okay. I feel like that's a few questions in one. Um, so I guess the first one is I think it's it's different for me because all my thoughts or all my own personal knowledge of you was all in a visiting room. It wasn't it wasn't at home. It wasn't around anybody else. It was always me and you in that visiting room. Me looking at other visitors and seeing how they were reacting, what their happiness looked like. It wasn't like it didn't it didn't feel at home or what home was supposed to feel like. And then I guess now seeing, you with your own place, being here, being with you and Rebecca, you know, being able to do things the normal way, um, our new normal way, I guess, is the thing that stands out the most to me because it's not in that visiting room anymore, and it's not me looking at how other people are crying or their happiness or their sadness. It actually feels like what it should feel like. It should feel like home and
Mhm.
and my own happiness.
And I appreciate your honesty. It must be hard to do an interview like this and talk about something so intimate, so personal, and so challenging because it's not like other people, talking. It's not a movie. This is real life. It's something that is there's some hurt, there's some pain, there's some things you can never get back. And it hurts for me to even see you or hear you cry because I just want to hold you in my arms and never let you go. And I told you I was gonna lock the door today and not let you leave, but I know that that's not my decision no more. You're an adult, and it would always be my wishes to have you like always as my baby. But I know that that's not real. That's not. You're not a baby. You're a beautiful grown young woman, and I love you for who you are and who you have become. I'm proud of you. You did so good. You
Yeah.
got good grades in school. You finished high school. You broke the cycle of, at least in our family, maybe in your mom's side of your family, but you broke the cycle considering such challenging times that you had to endure. And yet here you are. You didn't get into drugs, you didn't get into the gangs, you didn't get into going to juvenile hall, county jail, to prison, which oftentimes when a young person has a parent that lives in that lifestyle or is involved with the system, it's more than likely that the children will follow the pattern of the parent. And obviously you have found some kind of way to work through that, and here you are. You how did you do that?
um well, growing up in East LA, um there's a huge sense of community, and I think that really saved me. I mean, yeah, of course there's still a gang life, there's still other subcultures, of course, like that are just as as dominant, in that community, but I think with every community there's good and bad, and I tried to find anything that I could think of that was the best way that could help me. And I think school was a big part of it. School, the friends, the people that I made friends with. I also was pretty heavily into the punk scene, and that was a really big changer for me because a lot of it had to do with human rights, and I saw that I was one of those persons who were living through that, who had to go through a lot of those challenges and those struggles. So I felt like I could relate. I felt like I was one of the misfits that didn't belong, that didn't have this normal life that everybody wants or is living, and I felt like I belonged there. I wasn't a gang member. I knew that wasn't for me. But I knew that through music and, through making those friendships, through being part of that community, through protesting, through going to school and finding clubs that that could help me, use my voice and this power that I kind of took back as my own to help me and make me feel like I could keep going, that I had something, to show the world that I wasn't just going to sit back and just let, all these bad circumstances take control.
Or define who you really are? And that's the beauty. Like your social consciousness, your development, it has it's just very impressive. I've always been impressed by it, just in our many conversations over the prison phone calls, and the letters, and even in those visiting rooms, was like always what you talked about in those visiting rooms, like our discussions. It made me so proud to be your father, your dad, because you were going through these things, and when I was your age, it was like I don't remember seeing any of my peers having that kind of awareness, even in my own self. It wasn't until many years of living in the system that I started to like challenge myself and what I believed, what I thought would, the world entailed, and just the politics, the economics, and our society, subculture, the culture. Just like there was so much, and that I knew I had chose the wrong path. I pretty much figured that out. So when I seen you come to that conclusion so much more faster than me, I was like, wow, this is going to be good, because you are your own person to make your own decisions, and here it is, like you chose to take that on, those challenges, and like really involve yourself. So I remember in August 29th, after just a couple few months ago, me and you got to march in the 50-year Chicano moratorium. So to walk down Whittier Boulevard in East LA with my daughter, carrying that Mexican flag, and us holding those, jail crooked police, signs, and we were marching for something that's good. Not everybody's gonna understand that, and not everybody's gonna agree with your decision or my decision or our decision to do that together. But that was like picking the apple off that tree that we cultivated. It was like we got to see that seed get all the way to, that trunk, to those branches, to those leaves, all the way to picking fruit, where I'm like, all right, she has a good awareness. And I really enjoy that part of you. But like I said, you'll always be my baby. I always see you as still that little, bringing home that little baby that I remember when when you were born, and it was like such authentic tears that you drew from me, like from a different place, like I'm finding a father, and here's my baby. And then I got to name you, and I always had you sleeping with me, and then all of a sudden it was like that was gone. For 21 years, I knew I had to figure out a way to get back to you, back in your life. And I know I've told you thousands of times in letters and phone calls and visiting rooms, and how much I apologize for, because I take responsibility for the choices I make, because it caused this separation, and taking me out of your life. And that was always something that I lived with when I was in there. And I'm just happy that today that I don't have to live like that no more. I have you. I don't have you all the way 100 exactly where I want you every day, because I know there's so much more we can do together. Like, just there's many people going to listen to this. There's many, hopefully children, man, are going to be able to watch this, and at least get a little idea of, the truth. It's not what
Yeah,
you see on TV. It's not what read in a book. It's this is real right here.
yeah, definitely.
And what would be your message to the next generation of youth that have a parent in prison? Like, do you have like any words of advice? What would you tell them? Like, what would be like your main message that would maybe help somebody that doesn't understand, that has to go to that visiting room, or has to get those phone calls or get those letters, or not know? Like, I know there was many years where people just didn't answer the questions you had, because of your age, or maybe because they felt they were protecting you, but or protecting your emotions.
Um, I would say that, yeah, you're right. I didn't know the truth for a long time, and it felt like everyone was giving me the runaround all the time. Every time I'd ask, why were you there? What's going on? What's happening? It always seemed like everybody was sugarcoating it, just to kind of keep me happy, just to kind of, I don't know, maybe shut me up. I don't know, but I would say to those kids who are going through that, that the truth always comes out, and eventually you're gonna know the truth. Maybe not right now, but eventually you'll know, and hopefully by the time that you do know, you'll understand why, and you won't you won't hold that grudge, hopefully, towards anyone, depending on their situation, you know. But I mean, my message to everyone that, you know, I mean, for a long time, remember I used to tell you about my dream about how I think it was my 9th birthday, or maybe even younger. I used to every birthday I had, my wish was that you would come home, and it's kind of hard to say right now in front of
Yeah,
you,
you're
but
doing good though.
it got to a point where I gave up. I gave up and I stopped wishing for that because it felt like you were never gonna come, and I got tired of everything being let down, and it just seemed like helpless, you know, just kind of hopeless. And I I knew that I had to keep going. I had to keep living my life, even though a part of me wanted you there with me, wanted you to be here in person. I had to keep going. I had to, you know, just somewhere in the back of my head know that one day you would. One day you would be home. One day what we did today would happen eventually. And
How about if I
I
go over there right now?
no.
And
And
now,
then here he is.
and now it's real, right?
Yeah, now it's real. But I can't focus when you're right here. Now it's hard.
Okay.
But yeah. I'll wait till he gets back.
I'm back.
Okay. What was I saying? But yeah, I eventually had to just kind of stay strong and just keep going on, you know, because I I guess, you know, as you grow older, you kind of just know that it doesn't really feel like Santa Claus anymore, kind of thing, you know,
Yeah.
where it's kind of like that feeling when you find out he's real. It's kind of like you kind of just stop wishing. You kind
Mhm.
of just know that somewhere in your heart that it'll happen, just maybe not right now. And that's kind of what I had to go through. Um, but I do have one thing is that, you know, with that being said, nothing lasts forever, you know, even with the bad things, you know. Um, my mom used to tell me that my grandpa would tell her, this too shall pass. And I mean, I know that's a really religious saying, and I mean, I'm not super religious, but that saying is actually very helpful because that's kind of what I had. That's kind of the mentality I had. It was like, this will pass. Eventually, even the bad things, they pass. You know, not everything lasts forever when you're hurting like that. And I knew that one day it would be okay again.
What about getting help like counseling or therapy or
Um,
having a mentor or something?
so I didn't have a mentor most of my life. I kind of learned all through all the don'ts you do, you don't do in life. And I kind of just saw, you know, things that didn't work for everyone else. I was like, well, if that's not working for them, then that means it's probably not going to work for me. Um, and then as I got into college, I had a lot of really good, honest professors, and they kind of changed my mind on that. And they kind of taught me, like, you know, sometimes you have to learn the hard way, you know. And that also helped me kind of see things differently. Didn't really have that grudge toward you or toward mom. It kind of helped me see things as, you know, people make mistakes, people are human, people, you know, it it's life. Things happen, and you can't always keep track or keep in control of the things going around or the things you're doing. Sometimes it just happens, and you just gotta learn that way. And that's kind of how I was, and that I had to go through too. But I know that I did have a lot of good with my professors. They did help me a lot. They did get me resources, and with therapy, I didn't start getting therapy until recently. And now I'm able, I still cry because these are obviously traumatic experiences. But I'm able now to talk about them more and more honestly, even if they hurt other people, or if I see other people crying or mad, like you said, not everyone's going to agree with what we're saying right now, but this is just what I went through and what you went through. So it's helped me, and this is all I can say.
Okay. Well, you said a lot, and I know there's so much more, like I was saying earlier in the beginning, but today was a good day, picking you up and having you drive my car, my lowered car, and having you scrape it up going up the going up the driveway. But I don't care. It's just material things. Me being in the car and being next to you and watching you drive and watching you cook today, and me eating food that you cooked is a lot different than walking to a chow hall and eating food where there's no love poured into it. And I know that you did your best today, and it was the best fettuccine I ever ate. And sitting at a dinner table, finally, it was like I finally got to sit at my place at the table, and where my daughter has her place, and I enjoyed that, and I've been looking forward to it for so long. And there's so much more that I dreamt of, and I do remember your dream telling me, that I come and knock on your door, and you come and answer the door, and it's me coming home. And I was like, I would love to do that, surprise her, but I wasn't able to do that because because of the nature of one day I have life, the next day I'm going home on Thanksgiving Day, and you flew out here all the way from Colorado and drove in the car for 7 hours to come pick me up.
Yeah.
And I remember you whispering in my ear like, "Dad, you owe me for this one." So you know what I'm talking about. But I'm proud of you. I'm proud of the person you are. I'm proud to be your dad, and I love you, and I look forward to us maybe doing this again, because I really think that some people need to hear what somebody, what you've been through with somebody that's walked in your shoes, and because there's
Yeah.
so many people in your shoes right now.
Yeah, I did want to say, I also think that a lot of the things that I experienced with you gone, physically, I also gained a lot of it emotionally, which was also something that I didn't have. I felt like everyone around me felt more sorry for me and felt more bad for me, but I didn't always feel a sense of genuineness, like genuine love and attention, as much attention as I got from you, and that was something that I really needed, and you did give that to me. So I really appreciate that, because I know that there's a lot of kids. Like I had a few friends who had their parents, locked up, and they would tell me like, man, my parents don't even write to me. My parent doesn't even care what I'm doing out here, and I used to be like, man, that really sucks, because I could only imagine, like, if I didn't have you being as involved, sending, calling me, sending me things that you made homemade, with your hand, and all the beaded work, like, it would just hurt, because I needed that, especially during those really dark times when I felt alone.
Mhm. Yeah, and that was my way of, those things you talk about that I made, all the beadwork, the artwork, the paintings, the drawings. It was
The
like
drawing. Yeah.
that kept me going. And many times where being in that cell for so many days and hours, it was, and not having you there, it was like this was my little way of connecting with you. It was like making something that took me sometimes weeks or months, but
Yeah.
and then being able to get it to you, it was like, almost the whole time I was in there, I try to find ways to put my love into something that I could hand to you or mail to you, and know that you weren't forgotten and that it's not your fault why your dad's not presently physically in your life. But when I left, it was never like, oh, I'm gonna leave so I could leave Marlena alone all her life. Like my thinking just didn't connect those two things, that I could get caught and you end up without a father for so many years. But you know, obviously that was a hard lesson to learn, and I know better now. So when that stinking thinking shows up, I'm like, oh, I'm not doing that. I know the consequences of bad decision making, and I do my best to not feed into the monster that, he pretty much got a little monster living in a cage. But today I got the key, and I keep him on check. But it's just like trying to erase your memory, trying to erase your life past. It just don't work that way. So it'll always be there, but he's an old man in a cage now. No monster. But I love you, Princess, and
Me
I'll
too,
always
Dad.
love you more than all the stars in the sky, like I told you for many years.
Yeah, me
Okay?
too.
All
Okay.
right, so I'm gonna end this now and thank everybody for giving us a chance to express some hard things to talk about.
Yeah,
All right,
definitely.
bye bye.